This morning, we continue our reporting on thousands of migrants, most of them from Haiti, making their way through a dangerous stretch of Latin America right now. More than 90,000 people have crossed from Colombia to Panama this year, an unprecedented number. Yesterday, Manuel Bojorquez introduced us to Lionel Nelson, a Haitian migrant trying to get to the U.S. with his wife and baby girl. Manuel followed them as they tried to make their way from Colombia to Panama and handed themselves over to smugglers.
It's been a rough road for Lionel Nelson and his family, but the most treacherous part of their journey had yet to begin. As they left the Colombian beach town of Dokoupil by ferry, we followed along by boat to the other side of this bay, the next step in the trek north. For all the people on that boat, this is the only way to the other side, a 2-hour journey across the bay to Akandi. So the boats just arrived on the other side, and as we came into the bay, it's met by smaller boats, and these are all part of the smuggling operation, taking them from this boat to dry land. This would be the last time we saw any Colombian government forces or officials. Nelson and his family turned themselves over to a band of smugglers after negotiating passage along the only land route into Central America. We followed Nelson and his family on dirt bikes, out into the countryside and up into the hills. ¿Cómo está la niña? How's the child? Your girl, how is she? Okay. She looks a little scared a little bit. Miedo un poquito. Sí. We rode for more than an hour, struggling through mud and streams to where the hills become mountains at a smuggler's camp on the edge of the jungle. This camp is the place where many of these migrants spend one night before they go on into the Darien Gap. Those who run this camp here who are very wary of our cameras, but this is it. From here on out, it's all by foot, and it's all through the jungle. To understand how treacherous the terrain is, consider this. The Pan-American Highway, or Via Panamericana, runs from Alaska all the way to Argentina. But the road stops between the borders of Panama and Colombia, a 66-mile stretch of untamed wilderness too difficult to build. That's why it's called the Darien Gap. Despite the dangers, the number of migrants braving the gap has skyrocketed. More than 90,000 people are estimated to have passed through this year.
¿Ha visto usted estos números en su vida? Have you seen these numbers ever in your life?
No, nunca.
This smuggler, who would not give his name, told us his people only take the migrants as far as the border with Panama, then leave them in God's hands.
Todos quieren entrar a Estados Unidos o morir en el camino que volver a Haití.
They'd rather die trying to get to the United States than be deported to Haiti. Prefieren morir llegando a los Estados Unidos que regresar a Haití.
Sí.
And it is into that jungle of rivers, rocks, wild animals, and criminals that Nelson and his family are headed. The plan was to leave first thing in the morning. That will be the difficult part. ¿Estás preparado mentalmente? Sí. Motivación, you're motivated. Nelson says he's prepared for the roughly 3-day journey through the wilderness, a journey he knows is full of danger. Corazón, it's all heart. We've yet to hear whether they made it out of the jungle. For CBS Mornings, Manuel Bojorquez, Dokoupil, Colombia.
Wow.
The images are heartbreaking, and when you think the treacherous conditions that you go through to risk yourself, but more importantly, to risk the lives of your children.
Those babies.
That's how desperate you are.
You're not putting your kids in that water unless you think it's safer and better than where you're coming from.
Yeah, well done by Manuel, but with that said, the journey is so treacherous.
What did the one smuggler say? We put them in God's hands. We get them to that line, and then they're in God's hands.
And we pray for their protection.
Yes, we do.